It's free. There's no monthly website cost. There's no monthly, nothing you have to pay for to promote.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. In this episode, we're going to look into the concept of magical thinking and how it applied to the Watts family in the Watts case. I want to thank Heather on Patreon for bringing this to my attention. We've all seen the vision board, but how many of us have really paid attention, zoomed in and looked at some of those post-its, those little notations, those little aphorisms? And so once again, I don't think the point of all of this is to look at Shanann or to look at Chris Watts and to sort of point the finger at them. It's to understand what was happening with them and then ponder, ask ourselves the question, is there any magical thinking in our lives? Are we capable of magical thinking? Because it is often easy to recognize in someone else. It's much harder to see it in your own life when you sort of caught up in it. And if anything, I think the Watts case is a parable in people getting caught up in magical thinking. Whether you want to say it's believing in fairy tales, it's basically Chris Watts thinking that he could get away with something. The Sermon on the Porch is him doing his magical thinking thing. Shanann with the MLM marketing was her version of that. And then Nicole Kessinger having an affair with this married guy, thinking that was going to end happily ever after. All of those are examples of magical thinking.
And now until the end of April, if you're on my team, I can help you hit a $4,000 bonus on top of all of that. So definitely shoot me a message out. I want to help you get started. That's over $5,000, you guys, that you can do in just 1 month.
So before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. Shanann's vision board reveals the extent of hopelessly magical thinking. And that is something she was encouraged to do by people that she modeled herself on. It's a very MLM kind of thing to do. You basically put up positive fuel, positive messages, positive aphorisms, and then that is going to kind of give you a sense that all is well with the world, kind of thing. But the question is, can aphorisms alter reality? If you say, I am happy 1,000 times, does money start to stream into your bank account, and do debts magically pay for themselves? And we've actually all seen some of the videos where Shanann is wearing a patch with the words, I am confident, I am happy, I am inspiring, I am determined, and all of these messages are also on a vision board. I am beautiful, I am strong, I am me, I am unique, I am blessed in the top sort of right corner on an orange post-it. So, do you discover your fullest potential by pinning the words discover your fullest potential on a piece of cardboard and staring at those words for a few moments each day? So now we're going to make our way through the vision board, and when you pay attention, you really start to see the extent of it. So in the center, immediately below an enormous cruise ship, is a sliver of white paper with the words savings $50,000 May 2019. Instead, we know that close to a year earlier, they were 3 months behind on their mortgage, and Shanann was complaining about her husband spending an extra $100 on long-term parking. Even a meal at a restaurant would also set off the alarm bells. So on the day that he left for North Carolina at 10 to 5 in the morning, immediately after he'd sort of bought his parking, Shanann texted him, you never ever listen to me. How much a day? And then Watts sent her a photograph of the parking signs and said $16 a day. Shanann asked which lot he'd parked in, and Watts said the East Economy lot, and then Shanann said $130 we can't spend at the beach. And so that is giving you just an idea of how far they were from $50,000 in savings. Slightly to the left and in line with the postcard of Paris is a little aphorism, debt-free 2018. Do you think they were? Do you think they were debt-free in 2018? Below that, scribbled on an orange post-it, pay off mortgage, December 2019. How close do you think they were to that? At the bottom in the center, in a section of the board dealing with 5 years, below Chris to retire, and situated beside a large super yacht, Shanann had scribbled, Bella, $20,000. Now, some people have said that this is about Bella trying to start Shanann trying to start a wedding fund for Bella. Now, bear in mind, at that stage, Bella was a little toddler. And Shanann wants to start a $20,000 wedding fund for her, given the situation that they were in. To the left of that is a $200,000 college fund. Now, there's nothing wrong with those sentiments, wanting some of those things, but what is the value of putting that on a board? Is that going to make it happen? Bear in mind what was actually happening at that time was her husband was already plotting to get rid of the kids, plotting to get the kids out of school at the first possible moment. So you've got Shanann sort of planning their college funds, and meanwhile her husband is trying to actually get them out of school, a school that they could barely afford. What this shows isn't someone slightly ambitious or a little too positive. It shows someone so completely taken over by magical thinking that they're practically delusional. And, it's not just this vision board. You can see it almost every day on the Facebook feed. All of these aphorisms, just buy the damn thrive. And the clip that I played you in the beginning, you hear this sort of story that, it's not going to cost you any money. You don't even have to pay for a website. So it's literally a something for nothing deal. You get something, but you don't really have to do anything. You don't have to pay a price. You don't really have to work. And that's the whole thing. You get something for nothing, which is exactly what magical thinking is. There's another little clip of Shanann saying, if you do this and that, then you can make $5,000 a month. Well, if Shanann was making that kind of money, they wouldn't have been in the financial malaise that they were in. Shanann couldn't seem to connect actual income and expenses with reality. Somehow by speaking spells into the ether, which is something you are sort of taught in the MLM pyramid, the perfect life of privilege would just be magicked into being. Of course you want that kind of thing, but do you know how to get it? Well, you don't get it by saying stuff. And I think we live in a world where some people can become very wealthy by moving their lips. I'm talking about certain celebrities. They act, they say certain things, and they become fabulously wealthy. Singers can do it. Some politicians can do it. Some businessmen are, in that position. But for most people, you don't say things and you're effectively a magician, and then suddenly that happens. If that was true, no one would be poor. No one would have debt. Instead, most people have debt, and a lot of people, if not most people, how many people are really, really wealthy? Not many. And of course, if it was possible to achieve wealth in this way, then everyone would be wealthy. So with Shanann not being able to connect what is going on with reality, the fact that her finances were fiction, the fact that what was going on with her work and what she was sort of doing in her mind to earn a living was sort of fantastical, meant that while she was distracted by all that on her phone, trying to use these pseudo ways of earning an income, the dark shadow of another reality was creeping up on her. And when she was faced with the prospect of divorce, which is another reality, her husband not wanting the baby, Shanann couldn't face or accept that either. And Watts probably knew that. What I mean is Shanann didn't have a lot of practice dealing with reality because of her approach to things through magical thinking. What magical thinking teaches you is to avoid reality, essentially. But it wasn't just Shanann. You also had, for example, Chris Watts. And with Chris Watts, we see that magical thinking during the Sermon on the Porch. He's disconnected from his own acts. He thinks there's not a price to pay for what he's just done. He thinks that he can live happily ever after if he just says the right things on television. And I think there is a little bit of a psychology of that. If you just say the right things, then you can get whatever you want. In other words, if you lie properly, you can get what you want. And I think that is how Chris Watts saw it, is I'll commit this crime, but then I'll just say the right things, and then I won't have to account for it. Oh, if you're doing a lie detector, that doesn't really matter. I'll just say the right things. Right meaning what he thought they wanted to hear. Because I think he'd been doing that his whole life, and perhaps he imagined Shanann had as well. She'd been saying things that in his opinion other people wanted to hear, and that's what makes the world go round. And so what's also quite interesting is, besides the Sermon on the Porch, besides him thinking he was going to get away with it, his children disappearing forever, his wife as well, was Nicole Kessinger never going to ask about that? Was she going to accept that status quo? Were his parents going to accept it? Was Shanann's parents going to accept it? Were his co-worker, was everyone just going to go, oh, Shanann left, she must have been in a bad mood, and then nobody ever sees her again, but that makes sense. That's magical thinking. And we see some more evidence of it just in some photos where you see Chris Watts pointing to a boat with the name Christopher on it. That was something he was never going to be able to afford. He couldn't even afford his own home. And so I'd also think one of the ways we get seduced into this notion of magical thinking is through social media. What you say on social media can seem like reality, especially if enough people are duped by it. So no matter what is going on in your life or who you are or what the reality is, you can create another reality on social media. So you can say things and then that becomes a reality to a lot of people. The problem is it's not actually reality. And obviously if you transfer that concept into the real world, so if you transfer that concept of social media, you say something, a lot of people agree with you and support you and echo what you're saying, that's reality. You take that into the real world. I have no debt. Well, it doesn't quite work that way. I don't know what happened to my family. It doesn't quite work that way. In reality, there is accountability, even if it's not immediate. I do get a sense that Chris Watts was perhaps in a way breaking through his magical thinking, but in a very crazy way, meaning I think the fact that he'd exercised and seen results, that he'd had this real world experience with Kessinger, he'd suddenly stumbled upon a fresher version of the world beyond magical thinking. But I think he nevertheless thought he would do away with this cosmos that he didn't want to be part of with magical thinking, that he was going to do something quick and easy in a sense to solve his problem, to fix something complicated, but that was also a magical solution to something that would be otherwise sticky and difficult and troublesome. And so a fellow thriver actually put up a post saying, you know what, things are a process. Don't expect to lose weight instantly. Don't expect to get rich instantly. All of these things are a process. Be patient. Do the little things step by step, one at a time. In other words, pay the price. Don't give in to magical thinking because it's just not going to work. Everyone is tempted by it. Everyone is susceptible to it because everyone is interested in a quick fix, a cheap way of getting everything that you want without doing the work, right? It's like winning the lottery. But that's not how the world works. For most people, you do need to work hard. You do need to struggle. You do need to go through that long process of learning and improving and becoming more effective. But we also live in a world where advertising almost teaches us or suggests to us, you can get this car now. You know, it's you don't need to pay it off for the first year. Credit cards and a lot of things like that are all designed to play on the thing that none of us can actually escape, but we wish we could, we hope we could. And that is what magical thinking is. When I studied economics, they reinforced in us, they repeated over and over, there are no free lunches, meaning, you know, you get nothing for nothing. My father would often say, you get nothing for nothing and very little for 5 cents. And in terms of no free lunch, you know, Shanann saying, you know, you can get this product for free. I don't want to go into the MLM thing, but do you think that it really was free? I mean, do you think no one is paying for anything? Because probably what is happening there is the promoters have taken on a lot of product and they've taken it on at a discount, and now what they need to do is dispose of it. So they offer these freebies, but with the idea that you're going to get in deep and you're going to become part of her downline, and from there you start paying the price. So nothing is actually ever free, although, you know, it's often dressed up to be. And that's what magical thinking is. In a live stream I did, I think it was the last live stream, I spoke about, the second last. It's the one dealing with commoditization and the Watts case. And so in that, I started off talking about something that happened to me just the other day. Someone who was going to give me something for free, and it seemed to be a scam, and it was. But I talk about that in some detail in the beginning of that live. I also think commoditization is capitalism's way of bringing about magical thinking as well, where you turn a thing into a commodity. You put white and red script around a dark sugary drink, and suddenly it's this magical formula. Coca-Cola. You know, you take chicken and you sprinkle breadcrumbs on it, and suddenly it becomes KFC kind of thing. I'm just saying that's also a way of turning something that should be ordinary, food, refreshment, into something that almost seems magical. And you must bear in mind, when you buy, for example, a Coca-Cola, you're actually paying for the packaging as well. You're also paying indirectly for the marketing that they do. If you were paying just for the contents, it would be something like, I don't know, 10% of the value. So in a weird way, you're paying to be lied to, or you're paying the price for that magic. So going forward in the month of June, I'm going to be going through some of the very first blog posts that I put up on Shakedown. And so I'm going to be doing a series of episodes looking at the very early thoughts that we had, the original news that came out when the Watts case happened. In other words, how we knew certain things immediately and how long it took to understand or realize other things. And I think that's just going to be quite an interesting review. It won't be something I do every day. It might be once a week or something like that. But that is something to look forward to in June. For those interested in the phone data review, last year at around about this time, I did a series of around about 50 episodes under the hashtag 2 years ago today, Chris Watts. And so you can go to the playlist section, and I do recommend that you listen to these chronologically in order on the same day that this played out in the Watts case. So go to the playlist section and find the hashtag 2 years ago today series if you haven't listened to it yet. If you have, you might find some of those episodes interesting to listen to a second time. Quite a few of my subscribers tell me that they listen to my live stream sometimes 2-3 times. And to me, that's quite a compliment. I've also heard that they sometimes read my books a second time, which is also, it's nice to hear that there's depth and quality to your work. Once again, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.